Hello everyone, I am Dr. Suchita Nimbalkar. Today we are going to discuss about latent and sensible heat. Now, what do you mean by latent heat? Latent and sensible heat are types of energy released or absorbed in the atmosphere. Latent heat is related to change in phase between liquid, gas and solid, whereas sensible heat is related to change in temperature of gas or object with no change in phase. These two are essentially opposite. Now, what is the difference between latent heat and sensible heat? Latent heat, when heat added to an object in order for it to change state, it's called latent heat. Whereas when an object is heated, the increase in heat is called sensible heat. Latent heat is related to change in phase between liquid, gases and solid, whereas sensible heat is related to change in temperature of gas or object with no change in phase. Latent capacity is the capacity to remove the moisture from air, whereas sensible capacity is the capacity required to lower the temperature. Another difference is latent heat does not affect the temperature of substance, but sensible heat capacity required to lower the temperature. Now, example of latent heat. Ice melting or water boiling is the example of latent heat, whereas sensible heat, example of sensible heat is it warms water rather than melting ice. So this is the difference between latent heat and sensible heat. Now we are going to discuss about sensible heat. It is that heat which when added or subtracted result in change of temperature. Sensible heat is the energy required to change the temperature of substance with no phase change. The temperature range can come from absorption of sunlight by soil or the air itself, or it can come from contact with the warmer air caused by release of latent heat. Sensible heat is literally the heat that can be felt. It is energy moving from one system to another that changes the temperature rather than changing its phase. We know very well the example of sensible heat is nothing but it warms water rather than melting ice. Means temperature increases. It is the heat that can be felt standing near a fire or standing outside on sunny days. Now, what do you mean by latent heat? It is the change in heat content of substance when its physical state is changed without change in temperature. Now, if we observe this graph, in this case, when we supplied heat, temperature increases, means solid convert into liquid, liquid convert into gas, means the phases are changes. While converting of solid into liquid, latent heat of fusion is released, and when liquid convert into gases, latent heat of vaporization is released out. Now, what do you mean by superheat? It is the heating of vapor, particularly saturated steam, to a temperature much higher than the boiling point at the existing pressure. This is done in power plant to improve efficiency and to avoid condensation in the turbine. Here, one table of superheat is given in which some ambient condenser inlet temperature and return air temperature is given. Thank you very much.